TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, a terror attack at Jerusalem's Tunnels Road leaves 2 Israelis wounded as heightened security continues during the contentious month of Ramadan. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserts that Israel's international allies and partners cannot voice support for Israel's right to self-defense and then oppose Israel when it exercises that very right. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warns that President Joe Biden would not support an IDF offensive into the Gazan border town of Rafah. The IDF continues to deepen its operational achievements in the Gaza Strip, while on the northern front, hostilities continue to intensify, with Hezbollah substantively ratcheting up the scale of cross-border fire, which in turn draws IDF retaliatory strikes against the Iranian proxies' positions in both Lebanon as well as in Syria. Separately, as Muslims observe the third day of the month of Ramadan, a terror attack was ultimately thwarted at a border crossing on Highway 60, which is commonly referred to as the Jerusalem Tunnels Road. A Palestinian man arrived at the border crossing by means of an electric bicycle, and when a female military police soldier approached him for identification, the terrorist drew a knife and began stabbing her.
The terrorist charged the soldier with a knife. We are talking about an Erez battalion soldier of the military police. A civilian security guard joined the effort to overpower the terrorist. Both the guard and soldiers scuffled with the terrorist while he was trying to stab them, and succeeds in doing so. Praise God, they are diagnosed in light to moderate condition. Forces at the scene, including the IDF, border police, and civilian security guards, operated to neutralize the terrorist. I must note that we are talking about a number of armed forces that operated very professionally while keeping their lines of fire in check to avoid friendly fire, and by doing so, they neutralized the terrorist.
It is important to know that the IDF, police, and other security agencies are on the highest level of alert, not only because of the war against Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip, but also due to the Muslim-observed month of Ramadan, which historically marks a time of conquest by consecutive Muslim armies, including among a long list of others, the Umayyad Caliphate's invasion of southern Andalusia in 1710 AD, which left Spain occupied for the following 781 years, the famous Battle of Hattin in 1187, which paved the way for Sultan Salahuddin to conquer Jerusalem, and more recently, the multi-front surprise attack by a coalition of Arab states, which included Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Libya, Algeria, and Saudi Arabia, among others, on the holiest Jewish observed Day of Atonement, namely Yom Kippur in Hebrew, which on 1973 coincided with the 10th day of Ramadan. Meanwhile, Israel is seemingly going out of its way to avoid exacerbating tensions in Jerusalem and the so-called West Bank districts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley at large by maintaining freedom of worship for Muslims who seek to pray on the Temple Mount.
Every week there will be assessments also by the police. Maybe Mirit can expand on that, of public safety considerations, but also security considerations. We bring these things into account, and we'll assess the number of people who will be allowed in. Right now, as for the first week of the holy month, we can say that there's no change in the number of people allowed to enter compared to what we saw in previous years.
This is, we only had 2 days. Yeah, so up until now, I know that last night, what we estimate is pretty much 20 or 25,000. But it's only in the middle of the week. Usually, Fridays it's something else. This is why we are preparing differently.
Meanwhile, tensions between Washington's Biden administration and Jerusalem's Netanyahu government are seemingly on the rise. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to statements made by President Joe Biden over his objection to see Israel expand its military offensive into the border town of Rafah. Speaking to a conference of the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, Netanyahu pledged to push forward irrespective of international pressure.
I deeply appreciate the support we've received from President Biden and the administration, and I hope it will continue. But let me be clear. Israel will win this war no matter what. To win this war, we must destroy the remaining Hamas battalions in Rafah. If not, Hamas will regroup, rearm, and reconquer Gaza. And then we're back to square one. And that's an intolerable threat that we cannot accept. We will destroy Hamas, free our hostages, and ensure that Gaza doesn't ever pose a threat to Israel again. We will finish the job in Rafah while enabling the civilian population to get out of harm's way. We've taken measures to minimize civilian casualties that no other army has taken in history. Just ask Colonel John Spencer, a world expert on urban warfare, in charge of urban warfare in West Point. We have taken measures to minimize civilian casualties that no other army has taken in history.
While Netanyahu repeatedly cites remarks by Professor John Spencer regarding the IDF's professional conduct in the war against Islamist Hamas in Gaza, it is equally worth highlighting remarks made on February 8th in the British House of Lords by Lord Andrew Roberts, one of the most esteemed and globally renowned military historians, who was referred to by late Henry Kissinger as a great historian who is always relevant to contemporary thinking.
Even if we were to take Hamas's statistics as accurate, the 27,500 figure, and there's no reason why we should, because we don't do that with Putin, we don't do that with ISIS. If one subtracts the number of Gazans who've been killed by the quarter or so of Islamic Jihad and Hamas rockets that fall short, one's left with a fewer than 2-to-1 ratio of civilians to Hamas terrorists killed, of whom there have been over 9,000 so far. My lords, war is hell, and every individual civilian death is a tragedy. But speaking as a military historian, less than 2-to-1 is an astonishingly low ratio for modern urban warfare, where the terrorists routinely use civilians as human shields. And it's a testament to the professionalism, ethics, and values of the Israeli Defense Forces.
Reverting to Netanyahu's speech from Jerusalem to the AIPAC conference in Washington, D.C., during the course of which the Israeli leader asserted that allies and partners of Israel cannot claim support for Israel's right to defend itself and then subsequently oppose Israel when it exercises that very right.
So to our friends in the international community, I say this: you cannot say you support Israel's right to exist and to defend itself, and then oppose Israel when it exercises that right. You cannot say you support Israel's goal of destroying Hamas and then oppose Israel when it takes the actions necessary to achieve that goal. You cannot say that you oppose Hamas's strategy of using civilians as human shields and then blame Israel for the civilian casualties that result from this Hamas cynical strategy. For Israel, every civilian death is a tragedy. For Hamas, every civilian death is a strategy. So it is wrong and immoral to hold Israel to a standard for avoiding civilian casualties that no other country on earth is held to.
Prime Minister Netanyahu went on to pledge that mounting international pressure will not stop Israel from achieving its military goals.
My friends, I want to assure you, none of these pressures will stop us. Israel's very future, its very survival is at stake. We have no other option but total victory, and that victory is in and within reach. I know that the overwhelming majority of the American people stand with us. I know that the overwhelming majority of Congress stands with us. I know that you stand with us. I know that you're working tirelessly, day in, day out, to get us the tools so we can finish the job faster. And on behalf of the united people of Israel, I want to say thank you, AIPAC. Thank you for everything you're doing for Israel. God bless Israel. God bless America. Thank you.
Meanwhile, in Washington, in an apparent response to Premier Netanyahu's remarks, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan doubled down on the Biden administration's objection to Israel's intentions vis-à-vis the town of Rafah.
The president has been very clear about our position on Rafah, and our position is that a military operation in Rafah that does not protect civilians, that cuts off the main arteries of humanitarian assistance, and that places enormous pressure on the Israel-Egypt border is not something that he can support. We are talking to the Israelis about that. We are working through it, and I'm not going to stand at this podium and entertain hypotheticals on it. We've made clear our concerns about an operation in Rafah. We've made clear our concerns about the fact that an operation would put an enormous number of civilians at risk, and we have not seen a credible plan to protect those civilians. That is the position the United States has set forward. We've been clear about it. We've been principled about it. We're engaged with the Israeli government about our concerns, and again, I'm not going to entertain hypotheticals. For the president, he's really focused on the substance, on the policy, on his concern about the protection of civilians, and about Israel being able to sustain a campaign in a way that ultimately leads to an outcome in which the people of Israel are secure, Hamas is crushed, and there is a long-term solution to stability and peace in the region. He believes there is a path to do that, and that path does not lie in smashing into Rafah, where there are 1.3 million people, in the absence of a credible plan to deal with the population there. And again, as things stand today, we have not seen what that plan is.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. It is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, if you're blessed by our programs, we would deeply appreciate it if you would consider making a donation. You can do so by visiting our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I'd like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.